Issues. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for OPAT's Commission Community Meeting. OPAT, that is Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. I am Evander Cavallo. I have the privilege and the honor of serving as the Executive Director of Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. And in that capacity, also I serve as the chair of the OPAT Commission. It is now 5:07 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. This is officially the second meeting of public meeting of the OPAT Commission in 2025. And I'd like to start essentially by reintroducing OPAT to people at home, particularly that do not know what we do. We were created by section of the city code of the city of Boston, by ordinance, I should say, chapter 12, section 16. OPAT was created as an official an official agency in 2020, December 2020, to serve as an independent civilian agency to provide oversight over the Boston Police Department. Our purpose and mission is to provide a single point of entry for individuals with concerns or complaints related to the Boston Police Department and its officers. We exist primarily to investigate complaints of misconduct against Boston Police Department and to ensure that the Boston Police Department's internal affairs review process is thorough and fair. We also review and make recommendations around proposed policies and procedures for BPD. I'm also joined at the table by my two partners in this work, who are, I'll let them introduce themselves, but their official title is, because they're both part of chairs of the boards that serve within OPAT, which is the Civilian Review Board. Hi, my name's Sam Harold. I'm chair of the Civilian Review Board. And Tony Fugate. Tony, I appreciate you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Anthony Fugate, and I'm on the Appellate Board Division of the OPAT.
Yes, which officially it's called the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel of the OPAT. Today's we have a slideshow. The meeting is slated to go for 2 hours. As usual, I will review we just went through this through welcome remarks. This is the agenda for today. First, we always review and approve the prior meeting minutes, which the last meeting was April 30th of 2025. I will provide a brief report as the executive director to kind of give the public an update of the work that we've been doing for the past several months, the past quarter in particular. And the crux, and we'll get to the crux of this meeting, which, as I mentioned in the last meeting, which is really trying to focus about expanding and creating new regulations for OPAT, and obviously, particularly focusing on subpoena power, which is something that continues to come up every day, whether it's through the media, through members of the public, about use of our subpoena power that this commission has. That's one of its power. It's perhaps one of the most important power that this commission has, subpoena power. And then another thing that's come up often is the response letters that the commissioner of BPD is required to provide in response to the written notices of complaint dispositions that the CRB in particular does, and certainly even the IOP does on their side, right? And so this discussion, I should preface this discussion around regulations, it's an ongoing discussion. And it's something that we need to do, so there's several spaces that we need to go into. And so in the next meeting, perhaps I'll have a more thorough plan in terms of how we want to attempt to grasp this. But because of these two particular issues, very current and ongoing, around subpoena again, particularly, I wanted to sort of make sure that we dive into those first. And then again, the next step, hopefully we'll have a much broader plan in terms of like the spaces that we need to articulate, what things that we need to do to kind of hopefully by the end of the fiscal year, this fiscal year in particular, we'll have a more comprehensive of regulations for OPAT. So that's the plan here. But again, the plan, the focus today will be particularly around subpoena powers and what can we do to operationalize that aspect of it, and what should we do around, again, response letters that come from the commissioner, which both of you should have in your binder some recent letters that we have. So we'll get into those discussions. And as you see, again, in the end, if there's any other business that perhaps I didn't anticipate that you all want to discuss, we can discuss. And certainly there's a time in the end for public to make any comments as well. So we'll do that. And before I move on, also, I wanted to make sure I give a special thanks to my team that's here with us today. Without them, the work would not be happening on a day-to-day basis. We're working particularly in this house. I'm extremely hard to move the work of OPAT. All of them are here. I'll give them a round of applause without saying all the names. But again, thank you. I really do appreciate all the work that you all are doing, particularly again in light of some of the things that's happened behind the scenes for all of us and OPAT over the summer. The work has continued, and again, it shows, and we'll talk about some of that work today. Again, thank you, all of you, for your dedication and commitment to OPAT. And we'll adjourn hopefully around 7-ish as well. So it's 2 hours. We just did this again in terms of introduction to OPAT. Now, we will actually, I should mention that if anyone that's not here, will have the chance to provide any comment through email as well. They can go on our website and OPAT at boston.gov, but they can also email us directly, OPAT boards at boston.gov. They certainly can come down the street even to 2601 Washington Street and talk to us in person. I'm sorry? 2201. Thank you, Esther, for that. Our address is 2201 Washington Street. And I also want to give a thanks to BPS for allowing us to use this space for the second time, where it's at the Bowling Building with a good AC today as well. So I'm excited to be here. So let's again, our first order of business, as I mentioned, is reviewing the minutes. The minutes should be on your binders. Again, this is the prior meeting that we have on April 30th. The draft of the minutes are currently on our website, and certainly you can have a printed copy if you come to OPAT front desk at 2201 Washington Street if you want a copy of the minutes of last meeting. And I'll ask if there are any corrections to the minutes as presented before we move on. So go ahead.
And no corrections.
Thank you. Mr. Fugate?
I have no questions,
Thank you.
and I'd move that they be allowed at this time.
Thank you. And
I
any
can
second?
second that. I can second that.
Thank you. And so at this one, we'll vote to accept the approve the minutes of April 30th, 2025 OPAC commission meeting. At this point, next of order business again in the agenda is a brief update, and I'll try to be quick because I really did want to focus on the parts of the topic here of today. And one thing that I'll mention as well is that we will, and I shared with both of you the draft of our annual report. So a lot of this will already be in the annual report. It's already on our website, but I want to just kind of lift up a couple of things around what's happened in the last quarter for people to know. From April last quarter, again, April to July, OPAT received 57 total complaints. And the complaints, again, as the annual report will show, they generally are around neglect of duty, abuse of authority, and disrespectful treatment. And again, as the report will show, the Black Ghost owners submitted nearly half of the complaints that we received. That seems to be thank you. That seems to be the trend. I'm sorry. Where are we going, Michael? Oh, thank you. There you go. Oh, excellent. So I totally skipped two. I didn't click them. So here again, for people to see, you will see 57 complaints received, as I mentioned, mostly on neglect of duty. You will see on the demographics, some basic demographics there with Black people being 20 of the people that sent those complaints in. You see, somewhat of an even space between male and females, people that complained. You also, to go down further, I think the most important part of that I'm proud of, I'm sure both of you are proud of, is that we did have board meetings. CRB as the Civilian Review Board met in April, I believe, as well. And we put in 7 cases through the board, of which 4 was sustained during that discussion amongst the 9 members of the board. And we also had a CRB meeting, an IOP meeting, Internal Affairs Oversight meeting the next month, I believe happened in May. We had 2 cases put through the IOP board as well. So again, this is just a kind of a pie representation of some of the complaints and what neighborhoods are filing complaints. As you will see in the annual report as well, that Dorchester, particularly being the largest part of the Boston too, continues to be the largest portion of our complaint. With I believe Roxbury, downtown, you see over there being a hot area as well, South Boston. And you have actually places like Roxbury as well as 10%. So most of the other ones are kind of 10, 12% there, with some neighborhoods like Hyde Park perhaps with less at 6%. A couple other things around just operation. We hired a administrative assistant who's Mario. He's over there already. He's been a wonderful addition to the team, helping with a lot of the gaps that we have, particularly around front desk area, operation, complaint intake, and the whole 9, if you will. Mario's been a great help to the team. We're also in the process. Thank you, Mario. He's also very good with technical computer stuff. So shout out to Mario. We also actively hiring 2 investigators right now. Unfortunately, as you remember, last time I reported that we lost another investigator. That process, we've interviewed some people, and we're hopefully hoping to nail down and hopefully hire people to fill those gaps immediately. In the near term, we also will be hiring for Director of Finance and Administration and a Communications Manager, and comms being a space. It's a new position, particularly that we don't have, that I thought, obviously, with all the attention of the work that we do, but particularly from the media, social media, and so on, it'll be an important addition to the team to have a comms person, full-time staff. We continue to do, thank you. We continue to do community engagement. The bi-weekly executive director office hours continue to happen on Fridays across the city. In fact, this Friday coming up, August 15th, we'll go back to Brighton, to our coffee shop in Brighton at 10 a.m. We do the monthly open doors, OPAT open doors at our office on Wednesday, once a month. Our social media, we'll continue to sort of try to ramp that up. And as I mentioned, that hopefully that will be part of the comms person's job. So when we get hired that position, our social media will be much more active. Our email list will be much more active, and so on. So, and the final thing, as I mentioned, obviously the FY25 annual report is soon to be released from our office. And I'm proud of the work that we did as a team to get it here. I've given you the opportunity to review it. Hopefully by the next couple of days, hopefully if you have any thoughts about it, happy to listen and see how we can continue to improve it. But I can say it took months and months of work to get it to the space that is 30th draft, if you will, of trying to polish it, to make sure there's something that we're proud of and displays the work that we have to do, that we've been doing, and the work that we have to do going forward. Next thing, I'm trying to. Sorry. Oh, having a little difficulty with. Okay, so. All right, so that wraps up my direct report. I mean, and the good news is, I think that I'm proud to say that, particularly since we have had both of you on the team, you are aware of the work that we're doing. You're kind of engaged in the work that we're doing. In fact, I failed to mention the subcommittee of the CRB met yesterday at OPAT's office. So some of the work around making recommendations around policy, that's ongoing. So, but I wanted to just wrap that up at this point and ask if there's any questions from any of you, and I'll try to answer.
None for me.
Thank you.
None for me.
Thank you. So again, I'm glad we're 10, 15 minutes in and really able to focus on where we here, and which is around, again, the regulations. Okay. Now, and I'll start here. I think there was a slide here that I wanted to show. That no, it's too back. I don't think I can say it. Show it. There was again, the subpoena power exists within the ordinance that created OPAT, right? And when you look at the ordinance, which you all also should have a copy of in your binders, it starts when let me see, section 12, chapter 12, section 16 dash point 3 is establishment of the commission, right? I'm not sure what page yours is. Okay, you found it. Thank you. And then it goes into the next sections. Point 4, it says powers and duties of the commission. And the first thing that it says really under A is that the commission shall have the power to create rules and regulations and procedures necessary to guide the work of OPAT. Like that's like the core job of this commission, if you will. Okay. And again, not probably by design. The next line, it goes to the main sort of tool that we have, which is the use of subpoena, the ability to subpoena witnesses. It says here under B, which is clear for folks to read it, is that by 2/3 of the vote, that is 2/3 of 2 out of 3 of us can vote to subpoena. Let me see. Let me read it here. To subpoena witnesses and compel the testimony under oath, right? Including but not limited to filing contempt proceedings with the Superior Court. We can compel discovery and production of documents, right? And so on, right? So, and this is again, I brought it up because a year in, this topic is the number one question I get, whether it's from the media and certain community members. How often we have subpoena? What are you doing with subpoena? This is even particularly those, I know you all attended this meeting about with some of the people that helped create OPAT. They're like, how come you haven't used this, right? So, and that's why I'm pushing this again to the top of the list. And for me, you know, part of my suggestion, my recommendation is that for routine investigatory processes, as we all know, you know, particularly with subpoenaing officers to come in, witnesses to come in, or getting a video from a store, which I know investigators sometimes have dealt with, and they've asked for subpoena to get that video from across the street, right? Those things that routinely happen, that we simply say that we vote that as the ED, I can just, you know, create the process. Obviously, you get to be able to review the letter that we come up with, right? Because ultimately the subpoena is a legal document, it's a letter that we need to draft and come up with, and then we can sign on it. So okay, the ED can, on these particular areas, the ED can just send a letter and just subpoena. So that because as a body, we only function in this space, right? And so I'll have to bring you all in every time on particular officers and say, here's a list of officers, let's vote on this, right? So to make it more efficient, I think, again, for these narrow spaces of routine investigations, that I can just send it. And then when we come in these spaces, perhaps, then you can get an update. Here's the officers that we subpoena, and certainly we can send you an email with the list of the officers. So you're aware of subpoena a video from a store or things like that, you can get those things. But obviously, if the spaces that are perhaps more spaces that are not routine, we can come in and have a discussion and go on. And at any point, obviously, when we do regulations or anything else, if you as members of this commission feel like it's not going well, or let's tweak it this way, let's change that, right? We can come back and sort of have a discussion and tweak the right.
I like this idea.
But I think so.
I think that's absolutely the way to go. I mean, when you're talking about getting tapes and things like that.
Right.
I think it becomes a little bit different when we're thinking about subpoenaing directly from the Boston Police Department, though.
Right. So
fall back to the 2/3.
Right. It is the thing. So a lot of the things that are also routine that we get from the BPD, terror tape, 911 tapes, those things often they're just sent. So we may not even need to use them in those spaces. Right. But we're talking about witnesses, we're talking about some spaces sometimes that it's not routine. Sometimes they don't send. Or if they delay in sending, we can now it's subpoena, right? So because some of it, a lot of it, I would say, and it's continuing to improve. Like if it's a 911 tape, they got it issued, right? So that space may or may not need it, but it's there needed, right? But I think the use of it becomes more the stuff that's not necessarily the 911 tape, right? And it becomes, and to be honest, the biggest space of use for us is the office, right? as you, the CRB in particular, that's come up in the meeting, but officers not participating in them, right? But officers not, we send them letters after letters, emails after letters, they don't come to our interviews, right? So when we have a subpoena, then we have a legal way to proceed, right? So we sort of push the envelope, and officers, all PPD officers are used to subpoena, right? They are, as a former prosecutor, I'm sure you subpoena, they kind of come to trial, they kind of come to a pretrial hearing, whatever, or certainly a motion, right? So this would be in those spaces, right? And again, we could use it. And then obviously, when we decide to do other things that we want to subpoena around the case that you might have seen on a newspaper, right? This stuff always happens, right? We can then, those are not necessarily routine, right? So that's a case that we could then use to subpoena, right? For instance, one thing that's very current right now is the incident, the unfortunate incident that the three, I think, who've lost their lives. We continue to see how that's unrolled, right? With the first, the DA months ago decided not to prosecute. I think I saw one of the officers left recently, right? So that space is a space that, again, we could just be like, we want all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So those, again, that's not a routine, right? So right at all. Right. That's not a routine one, but that's a space we should be playing a role, right? I just use it as an example because that's a very current thing that we see happening now. So, but without, again, obviously it sounds like you both are in agreement with this. So perhaps we just put it for a vote and make it official. Does that make sense? Yes. So, and and we'll put it in writing as well. But really it is just sort of for routine investigatory processes, including, witnesses, and, subpoena witnesses and basic documents, and things like that, that I can, as the ED, and obviously a third of the full body is giving me the power to just go on and move that and then report back. True. Is it okay?
Sure, that's fine. The only question I have is,
Okay.
when we're talking about subpoenaing witnesses, are we going to include police officers? Or are we talking about civilians only? Because if we're talking about police officers, then do we potentially run into an additional problem with the union regulations or the contract that they have with the city?
Right, so we can, right, but now we are running into those things. Right, you see what I'm saying? So what this does, and if it comes up, then we deal with it. Right now, we're just not putting the process to work, to push the boundary. We still have those discussions, right? We've had incidents that, the union is saying they're just not gonna come, right? And now, but all we did is send them an email, right? So it just gives us a legal space for us to debate that, right? Versus just, hearing it, they just saying they're not doing it, and it just kind of stays out there, right? So I think those issues are all ripe issues, right? And but then we debate it, like we look at so that's really what I'm trying to do. So we're not just like, oh, have you tried? We sent them an email, right? And they didn't even respond, right? So that's often what we see, right? So now we're sort of saying it's an official document, right? Like you get from the district attorney to come to court, right? Or you get to the AG's office.
Or the defense attorney.
Or defense attorney. Defense attorney, subpoena them, right? So then now you force it, right? So then we may deal with and sort of stumble, but then we're forcing the issue. We having discussions.
And Superior Court is absolutely the way to go.
Correct, and we have Superior Court built in infrastructure built into this already, right? So then it's not us not. Then we're doing our job, right?
Okay.
And so in our job is to cause that friction, so use the tools. So it's really, but I appreciate you raising that because it is a critical thing, right? They have those rights, right, under collective bargaining. And in fact, the collective bargaining agreements is coming up again, right? So there's places that we can start pushing to get the job done. And so to say they need to submit the process. However, we can suggest they do, we can push. We can push, we can also write letters, but legal letters, right? Not just legal.
Exactly.
Good. Does that make sense? So, after said that, then the best option now is I'll have one of you please,
I'll move
Thank
to
you.
delegate
Yeah,
the authority
okay.
on routine matters for you to be the executive director to summons
yes,
a
subpoena.
use the subpoena power in lieu of a 2/3 vote.
I second that motion.
Thank you. So, and so we'll put it into a vote. I think, should we do the I vote? All right, so,
Aye.
so I'll just call your names. It's Sam, Audi.
Aye.
Anthony
Fugate.
and I, Andrew Cavallo, as the chair of the commission, vote aye. So that matter is now considered approved and passed, okay? So
That's
thank you.
exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
That's good.
I just wanted to get, let's just fight some stuff, right? So, because it does come up often. Yeah, so I'm glad that, we're no longer saying we're gonna do it, we're doing, it, right? We're putting the process forward. And, the next step will be, obviously, we'll draft the letter, we'll try to draft the process. You'll all have access to look at those, and we'll start doing those things, rolling them and seeing, who comes in, who doesn't, right? And if somebody doesn't come, then we can figure out what the next steps are.
Yeah.
Which again, is all built in, okay? But again, thank you for, this feels really good to get this done. The second matter, for discussion around this topic of regulations, is one that's a little less cut and dry, okay? And I'll try to frame it a little bit. One, it's generally the topic of, and you see again, the ordinance here speaks to this, in the section 16.12E, under civilian review process, you will see under civilian review board process, you will see that ultimately, as folks at home should know this, if they don't, I'll explain it briefly, is that essentially on the civilian review board side, right, the CRB as we call it, a civilian review board serves more or less, and Sam is the chair of it. There are 9 members, people from the community, 9 people from the community, different backgrounds, they essentially come in and help us resolve matters of investigation. People from the community come to our office. As I said earlier, we had 57 people in the last quarter come in and file a complaint against a Boston police officer primarily. And my team and I, we investigate the complaints, okay? And then we bring the board in, the civilian review board, to come to our office and make the final decision. They serve, I like to explain this way, they serve as the jury or the judge panel that makes the final decision. Now, after that happens, so there's certain outcomes that comes from that, is that, you could determine that nothing happened, so that the thing was not sustained or the officer did nothing, right? But you can also determine that the officer did something and do what's called vote to sustain the matter. Okay, now, if the CRB votes to sustain the matter, the next part of the process is that we then grab the case, write a report, obviously that goes on our website first and foremost, and then we write a letter to the commission of BPD to say the civilian review board met on this case and determined to sustain this case against that office. Okay, now that's the crux of this issue. Now, based on our orders, the commissioner then has to write us a letter back. Okay, now this is what this is. Okay, so once you vote, you also determine a disciplinary action. Right? You determine what the consequence of the officer should be. Now, this says that should the police commission choose not to implement the disciplinary action or recommended by the CRB, the commissioner shall notify the CRB of the implemented disciplinary action and detail the reasons the recommendations was not accepted. Now, I want to pause there for a second. I want to make sure that we sort of take it in and understand what that means. At least from my point of view, it's this, okay? It says essentially again that if he does, once we vote and the CRB vote and sends a disciplinary action, right, to suspend the officer, say for instance, that he needs to write a letter back to say that he's not going to follow disciplinary action and why. One thing that I see here, and this is just basic law, you both are lawyers as well, right? To me, this does not give the commission the option to unsustain the case.
Doesn't seem like it.
Right. So if the CRB says this officer did ABC and is sustained, the commissioner does not get to say, right, based on this, and again, this language is straight from the orders, copy and paste, right? That the commissioner does not get to say, okay, they decide to sustain, but I think should not be sustained.
Yeah.
All he can do is change, if he wants,
whatever disciplinary.
whatever is for them.
Yeah.
So I want to sort of frame that, okay, so we understand, at least that's my point, okay? Now, over these letters, one of the things that I was getting a lot of pushback on from the community too is that there were a backlog of letters that we were not getting response. Okay. Particularly since I started a year ago, I think there was at least 8 that we had not gotten answers. I will say enough of that. Last month, is it? I'm trying to see if that's in the slide too. We received June 25th. We received 5, I believe 5, 4, 5, 5 or 4 responses back. Okay, to cases that we had since sustained allegations and disciplinary action. Now, the letters, again, they're all for members of the public to notice. The response letters and the reports are all on our website already. This is not something that's new. But I put it in your mind is for you to sort of see what the strategy is from this perspective. Okay? And you will see that, and I pulled one quote from the letter that's in here. Again, you could, I can pause, you can take a quick look at the letters. The letters are more or less all the same. Yeah, you know, the generic letters, and they're saying essentially that in accordance with their protocol, that the matter will be referred to the internal affairs division for further review. And then the IAD, again, the internal affairs division will evaluate whether the department concurs with the findings. Right. So, which is this is what I was framing it earlier, where the findings are what they are.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll determine what the next action. Right. So I wanted because that's the position that he's taking. Right. But I wanted to make sure that one, I bring it up to you because this is a space for the commission to elaborate and think about what we should do. But I started with the language of the ordinance to say, really, there's no authority there to determine whether it concur with the findings, because the findings is sustained. Correct, right? And so what he has, at least per ordinance, is the ability to say, okay, I'm not going to give this officer 30 days. Perhaps I'll give him 1 day suspension or whatever, right?
Oral reprimand.
Or they can do that, but he can't change the findings, right? So I say that letters that come out like those letters that are in your paper. And the other thing is that this process is new in terms of their take about, that they're gonna do essentially send it to the CR to the IAD. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll mention one case in passing as well that this is sort of developed a little more is case 18, which I'm not sure if you even have that on there, but that is it. Okay, so you have that on there, so you'll get a chance to look at that too. So in that case, they did exactly this more or less. The IAD went back essentially. Okay, and they wrote a somewhat like I think 30-page report in terms of 22. Okay, 20. This is my fact checker. I love that. So 20 page document that says, okay, this is a case that preceded all of us for the record. Okay, this case, when I started back in May of last year, this case was just like ended. The CRB had just voted on it.
Got it.
Okay, and so in that case, so they then sort of essentially reinvestigated the case. Okay, so just imagine the concept, right? So the CRB, right? Obviously, we're designed to the spirit of this office and this law is that we provide oversight over them, right?
Yeah.
And that civilians get to make this power decision, right? So what we're seeing play out a little bit though is sort of, and I'm not sure. Part of it too is hard to tell. Is that it's up to us to tell them that no, that's the wrong stuff because he's also not reading this perhaps as close as right because that's the, like he's got a million other things to do. Right? So I'm trying. So at minimum, I want to sort of lay that out and see whether we can come up with something in terms of how we respond. And number two, there also comes up in this space. And I'll be quiet, I'll let you reflect as well, is the timing of the letter. because we're designed, which, I'll admit, it's just 3 days for us to give them the notice. Sometimes we don't give them that 3 days, it'd be, the next week, right? But his letters, there's the ordinance does not say when his letters due.
Yeah,
Okay, so it could be 30 days, it could be 45 days, it could be 6 months later, it could be whenever, right? So, I think, though, this is again our purview as the OPAT commission to sort of think about, okay, what is a reasonable timeline for us to receive that letter back? And if we don't get it by that letter back, so I can say, per our regulations, we determine that, 45 days is true, 30 days, 60 days, whatever we think, right? Whatever makes sense is reasonable, right? Right, so we're not, this is again a question that comes, and unfortunately, though, people that come to us, they just wait.
Yeah.
They just wait. We just kind of like, oh, do you have anything has happened? No. You got to respond? No, right? And we just, and again,
it's frustrating for people.
it's frustrating for people that come to office, right? And in particular with case 18, again, this is like after they come to us, like that's a separate issue, but after they come to us, now BPD is doing another investigation. Right.
Did you say you're doing another investigation?
Essentially, right. That's what that's.
18 specifically, was this a complaint that was filed OPAT or filed?
No, this is this was a case that came through our office.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously, as you said, the other way is through them, right? But I'm specifically narrowing down locations that come directly to us, and then goes to the CRP, right? And then goes to the commission, right? So now, based on his responses, is that the letters that we sent to him that says sustained, that he's not gonna send it to the ID for further investigation, if you will, review as he read, right, to you, right? But is it a review? Is it another investigation? I will say, based on the one on case 18, it's essentially re-interviewing the witnesses. And in fact, they had some of the officers that did not cooperate with us, right, in their interview, right? So you see, so it's created an issue for us that not only is about timeline, but it's also makes it, is it the spirit of what we had to do, right?
Also a waste of resources.
Sure. But you just said a group of letters were all sent at once?
Correct.
How long before they responded?
So these letters, I think primarily these are cases that were like resolved November of last year, perhaps even May. I see Michael edging forward over there, but these are cases that we've been waiting for some time.
So we're talking 7, 8 months, 9 months for them to have responded?
That's correct. Yeah, we, on June 25th, received responses to the 4 sustained cases from the May 15th CRB.
May 15th of
May
last
15th.
year.
No, of this year.
Okay, we did, okay.
They did the most recent one, but
Okay.
that means we're still missing responses to sustained cases from March of this year and dating back all the way to April
Of last year. Okay,
Mm.
right, so those individuals are with, but case 18 though, it's an interesting case. And for many different reasons. This is the one case, again, I came in on the back end of it, right? So I have limited sort of understanding of it. But essentially, it was, to me, it's the most severe case that we've had in terms of what the board determined. This was one that they determined that the officer should be fired, right? So it became a thing, right? It's no longer saying suspend them for 1 day or 2, right? So this was a severe situation, right? So but essentially they sent us a document that, to me, and I reviewed it briefly, it's just an entire investigation that they did after the CRB had sent it. Right. So I sent them the notice that we had already, and I remember actually I met some of the family members and the people that were involved in that case, right? So those, again, these issues are not sure, but the questions in my mind is one, timeline.
That's important.
And number two, the thing I just pointed out earlier about concurring, like again, about the findings in particular, right? Because the findings, they're sustained, as far as I can tell, right? And number three, which is all tied to the timeline, is the scope of their review, right? Because once we get their case, right, through the IR order now, that's a review, right? You don't get to go and investigate and talk to all the witnesses, right? You review the video.
Yes.
right? So it's a very complex situation, obviously, right? And very interesting space as well. But I wanted to, again, to kind of bring this in because now these letters are gonna come, right? And we'll have to wait. You just said that he submitted to them, right? Now, ID is gonna do reinvestigate, right? Like review and talk to witnesses again, do all that stuff. Then it just takes more time and so on, right? So I wanted to sort of see if there was an opportunity to sort of write back and say, listen, it's some things, right? Right. I think again, I think timeline is one that we can, I'm happy to hear more from you all about what you think that could be, what if you agree upon. And we don't have to agree on everything today, right? Because this is a very complex situation. But I wanted to, before things start to move in that direction, I wanted for us to pause and think about what this means for this agency and how do we respond.
I have a question.
Sure.
Just so the general public knows. When a complaint is filed directly with OPAT, is Boston PD informed of that complaint?
Yes,
So they can do a concurrent investigation if they so choose, correct?
they can, technically they can, but the is how it works now, right? And actually, I think this is in one of, some of this is in the regulations that we do currently have. I make sure that you all had that too, the 2 pages of regulations that we have, which is, the complainant does not get to form a shot, as we say. They don't get to sort of say, okay, I'm going to, because at that point too, it becomes a resource issue, right? So they don't get to come to us, go to BPD, and then go to post commission, right? And everybody is doing investigation. What we do and what they do too is that if they come to us, it's with us. If they go to them, right, because if they start an investigation, if the complainant goes to BPD, then we say, okay, we can't investigate, but we
Review it.
but we can review it later.
Yeah.
Right. After they're done, after BPD is done, right? So BPD does not do a concurrent investigation with us as well, right? So that's again, that I think that's an agreement that they had early on too, which makes sense, right? Because
Sure.
and both, if they're already at the state, you don't want them to come to us and then either say one thing over there, which is kind of all doing the same investigation. And perhaps different conclusions too, they can create more issues, right? So to answer your question, they don't investigate them. We are the ones, once they come to us, typically the complainants that come to us, sometimes they've gone over there and couldn't get through or whatnot, or they just want to come to us. This is why our purpose, right, is to be the single point. We want them to come to us.
Absolutely.
Right, so they come forth to us and we want to keep them here, right? But the issue though is that it goes now, it's gonna go back to them, and then it's another investigation happen, right? For complainants, they may or may not want it to go to them in the first place.
Creates additional time.
Right.
People getting justice. In addition to that, it's almost like an harassment or intimidation of those people.
There you go.
They've come forward here. They've been interviewed extensively here, and then BPD wants to then do that's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough on these individuals. Yeah, it should not be, quite frankly. But again, in collective bargaining, and again, that's going to be an important issue. What those contracts say in collective bargaining, because you can see police officers going, "I don't have to go. I'm not going." And again, that's certainly why we have the subpoena policy.
That's correct. Yeah.
But I'm really concerned that after this been in full investigation by us, that it then goes back to Boston PD and they start a brand new investigation with witnesses that are saying, "I've already said this, no one's listening."
Right.
Then it
Or
makes it
witnesses who've had bad experiences with the police, and that's the reason they came to OPAT in the first
Good
place,
point.
was to get
Good point.
individual.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a couple of things we have to deal with here. First of all, the response time,
Yeah.
I think, is crucial.
What are we thinking about that? What's your sense?
I gotta tell you, they've certainly got the, excuse the expression, manpower and personnel to get these things done relatively quickly. I would think that a 45 to 60 day period would be the maximum.
Okay, that makes sense. That's what I was.
And again, I mean, at this particular point, they're months and months behind doing some of these things, and you've got people going, and you can't blame them for saying, it looks like nothing's getting done.
Right.
Nobody's addressing my issue,
Right.
you know?
And I also think that, even just the response itself doesn't have to be the end of what happens, you know, like
Sure.
this isn't the end of what's going on.
Correct.
They're evaluating.
Correct.
So if they are going to agree with us or they want to evaluate, I mean, I think 45 days,
Okay,
that's actually the same amount of time that just as in my mind, that the school board gets to appeal a disciplinary decision for students. So I was,
Well, we answer interrogatories.
yeah,
Right.
we can answer interrogatories. It is like a standard amount of time. And it's just an email.
Yeah, it is just an email. I agree. I think the 45-day limit would be a very appropriate one.
okay. Okay, so why don't we just, we got something here. So let's pause and vote on that. Does that make sense? I'm looking at us. Okay, so can I hear a motion?
I move to have a 45-day period where the officer or the Boston Police Department has to respond to our recommendation.
Okay.
I second that.
Thank you. And so, having that process happen, we'll move for a vote. And we'll do a roll call with each commissioner, Sam Harold,
Aye,
and that's a yes?
yes.
Yes, and Commissioner Tony Fugate,
Yes,
and that's a yes for 45 days. And I, Evander Cavallo as the chair, also vote a yes for 45 days. Okay, so let's talk about, so that's one. Number two, then let's talk about the review process, right? Like what, in terms of, you know, what they're doing, right? When it goes to them, it is a complete, you know, essential reinvestigation, right? The way to go.
that's kind of against the spirit of this whole thing, isn't it? Spirit of the regulations. I mean, OPAT was created to do their own investigations.
Right.
If it had developed with Boston PD, then that's one thing, but when it develops with us, then perhaps it should not be. I'm not in favor of them being able to reinvestigate at all. There's an appeal process. If they want to bring it up to the appeal board, they can certainly come in and argue at that time. But it just seems like too much intimidation of individuals that, again, as Sam said, weren't willing to go to Boston PD to start with.
Right.
Yeah, and I you know, the resource thing bothers me too, you know, I think that, you know, the mayor appointed us to do this work. This is something that the community wants. And we're doing it. And I just feel like, you know, it's not, there are different mechanisms. If they want it to be investigated a different way, they can go talk to internal affairs at the Boston Police Department, but they're not doing that. It does feel like sort of two bites at the apple that
Sure.
aren't really necessary.
Okay. So what is the solution? What is the action plan here that can come out of this? What can we vote on?
That essentially, once a determination is made by
Okay. I'm
OPAT,
gonna write that down, okay.
Also gonna write it down.
that all they can do is go to the appellate board,
What appellate board are you talking about?
board I chair.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
Bring us to look at it at that particular point.
Or
okay.
I think there's also an internal review if they wanted to get that internal review.
Yeah, so
Within, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I think that in my mind, it seems like if OPAT and the CRB makes a finding, it should go to IOP. If there's a review that's happening internally at the internal affairs, I know there's like an appellate process there. I'm not super familiar with it,
right.
but I feel like
Okay, so this, I don't caution it, but it's the first, right? Because the
Yeah.
ordinance is silent on this,
got it.
right? Because literally says, so just think about what the process looks like for this, right? Literally says 3 days after the CRB makes the decision, we file a letter to the commissioner and say this was sustained and here, execute this, right? And, or write us back, right? So there is no, in my mind, where at least it's certainly absent in the language of the ordinance around, do the police officer, like, and the other thing too, we're not talking about the police officers that were sustained, that were the crux of the investigation, right? We're talking about BPD commissioner and BPD as assistant, right? Right, so that's two different things.
That's true.
Right. Good, so, but it is silent in terms of whether that officer wanted to appeal. That is true. I'm not sure if it's something we can go into. And think, I think we need to think more in terms of what that could look like. But we're talking about something totally different. We're talking about now, it's not even the individual's involvement
Yeah,
on either side, really. It's the systems, right? It's OPAT and BPD, right? We sent a letter to BPD commissioners saying, we found this. And we recommend this is, right? So what should the commissioner do? Right, is what we're determining, right?
Got it.
So they do have an internal affairs, appeal process they have in the system. But that's sort of a different, I think we're talking two different issues.
got it.
So, but to go back to what you were saying, though, I think you're still on the right path. Around, once the determination is made, then, okay, the next thing, like the line that goes, then it's like the BPD commissioner has 45 days to,
Yeah.
right, to respond, right? And I think the BPD commissioner response should focus on the not the findings,
Yeah,
right? Then, because if it's the findings, then this, if it's not the findings, then there's less need to go.
I think I see what you're saying.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So because again, it's not the findings, it's the consequence,
Yes,
right? Because the language, and we can go back to the language sheet if you all need a refresher. It clearly to me said that if he does not want to implement our recommendation, that he can do something else and say why.
Yeah.
Right, but remember, we talked, that's why I was trying to frame it earlier, that there's nothing that says that he can sustain the case.
Yep.
Right, so that makes it that the review, that the redoing of the investigation is less needed.
Yeah.
Because the determination of the CRB, in a sense, to sustain the case, that's final,
That's it. Yeah,
right?
Yep.
Am I right?
I think so.
Yes.
Right, so I wanna find the language that sort of kind of get some of that wrapped up.
Yeah.
But I think what we can vote on, okay, is which, and I'm trying to find the right language again there, but what we can vote on is around the findings and his response. His
Yes,
response should not focus on the findings of the CRB.
yeah.
Right, like,
So maybe we have something that has language that talks about once a determination, like Anthony was saying, has
Uh-huh.
been made by OPAT
right,
and by the civilian review
Yeah.
board within OPAT.
yeah,
Those findings are
our final.
final. And any additional action or any additional what would be like discretion, the
Mhm.
discretion remains, of course, with the Boston Police Department on how they enact whatever punishment,
Correct.
but these are our recommendations, this is our finding, and you can't disturb the finding.
Correct, which, not to kind of geek out a little bit, but it gives me, it's sort of like the judge doesn't get to, always say, okay, the jury determined this. And don't say this, you can't say, now it's not guilty, right? Like, right, you
Well,
can't.
very
but-
rarely.
right, there's a limited space.
Judgment notwithstanding verdict,
Yeah,
but
you can't, barely counts.
but I never get it.
Yeah, rarely
No,
counts.
I agree with that.
Rarely counts, right? Those is usually like, the elements wasn't proven, like.
Yeah.
Where were you? I will say I had one, something like that happen one time. I wasn't this quick, but not to kind of get too much into the weeds here, but I'm still, I think you articulated something, and I think we have this recorded too, so we can go back and try to grab the language more concisely. But I think that, again, we have the 45 days.
Yeah.
Number two, we have, that the BPD commissioner cannot.
Disturb the finding of
Disturb the finding, right, of the CRB. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
CRB, and then what was the second portion of your thing that you focus on the,
Actually, I kind of want to change it.
you want to change it?
Well, I'm wondering if there's a way to talk about how the BPD will take action on our recommendation. It's, the discretion of the BPD is there. But I also want them to take seriously our recommendation. I don't want to just say that it's discretionary. And the BPD will seriously consider our recommendation and provide a rationale for why they're.
Okay. 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 I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Esther always.
Same.
Let me see if I've got this straight.
Yeah.
CRB, you're making sure that the sustain remains at CRB level.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're saying that that's not an appealable finding at all to IHO.
That's not what, we're not saying that.
Okay.
We're saying, we're not deciding that portion.
Just that the BPD commissioner can't disturb that project.
Correct.
So if there's an
Absolutely.
appellate process, there's an
Right.
appellate process, but the appellate process isn't the Boston Police Department commissioner.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but to kind of go to your space, there is a question that we're debating and maybe think through, right? And there could be a space, right? Within that system to say if people wanted to appeal it, they can go to the so yeah, and again, this is what our authority is, to create those rules and recommendations, right? To regulate those spaces, right? So that's not so, but I just wanted to be clear, that's not what, that's why I was saying, that's a totally separate issue, right? In terms of individuals being able to appeal. That process does not exist. We can't think about perhaps next time about what that looks like, but we're talking literally just really within the two systems, right? That the commissioner and the work that the CRB does, how does it sort of circulate? Does that make sense?
Sure, it does.
And so to kind of, I wanted to just pause briefly too and sort of look. I think I got most of the language down, but I wanted to go back to the ordinance too. Because sometimes for me, it helps because it gives you the language too, because it's straight from the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Authority. It's the authority, right? So again, to go back to the bottom of 12-16 and 11, which is the civilian review board process. Under E, right, not under E, you will see the last sentence starts again, which is what I had in a couple slides above this. I had it up. This language, right? That's straight from that sentence, right? Where it says, should the police commissioner choose not to implement the disciplinary action recommended, right, by the CRB, the police commissioner shall notify the CRB of the implemented disciplinary action and detail the reasons the recommendation was not set, right? So we're sort of filling the gap here, right? To sort of interpret and say, no, you get to determine disciplinary action, right? Essentially, right? Right? You don't, please don't touch this side, right? Of the state, right? Because so that's how we interpret. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just kind of do a time check. We got time.
So I have
So let's see what
updated language.
Okay.
Okay, so the Boston Police Department will not disturb the finding of the Civilian Review Board. The Boston Police Department will seriously consider any recommended sanctions. And if the Boston Police Department wants to depart from those recommendations, they shall provide notice as to why they're departing from those recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a lot of that's from here, right?
That's directly from there.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally, although I would like to put back in the phrase, detail the reasons why.
Detail the reasons why.
Detail the reasons why.
Written notice, yeah, it is, obviously. Written notice.
Not a phone call.
Right, so what we can't do too, I mean, because the language, we all sort of dive into it now, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be all of the language right now, right? We sort of can vote with the spirit of where we are.
Yeah.
And I can certainly sort of put it in writing, right, so we can kind of say, oh, I thought this, let's do it this way, right? But the crux, I think, of the voting and the decisions will remain the same, right? irrespective of us trying to
Yeah.
collectively come up with the right language right now. And I think my suggestion is that that I write a letter on our behalf, right? And you all can look at it to sort of just kind of explain some of this a bit, right? And now, and this is where you can kind of see too, right? In terms of, do you think is that what we agreed upon, right? Does that make sense? So that, by the time we don't get 5 more letters and 6 more letters, we're just kind of like, wait, right?
Yeah.
And sort of, because I wanted to move on this rather quickly, so, and I didn't want to do it alone. Obviously,
No, we appreciate it.
It's all of us together, and you all needed to sort of understand the context of all of this to see why it matters. I wanted you to sort of, because I'm wrestling with it, right? Like, wait, what is this, right? And you all had some thoughtful ideas around, certainly, appearance at least of pushing the witnesses that already don't want to deal, they already came to us first, right? Even intimidation from the witness perspective. So I'm glad again we had this robust debate around this issue, and we will. I'm not sure if there's any other vote needed, Esther. Okay, so she said yeah. So let's
So I'm gonna read your motion now?
yeah, the read motion with the caveat we finalized and everything.
So, this language is just suggested language, but I move to have a letter sent by the executive director that will detail a new rule that explains that the Boston Police Department will not disturb the findings of the Civilian Review Board, and that they will seriously consider any recommendations and sanctions. And if they disagree or depart from those recommendations, they shall provide written notice and detail the reasons why.
Then 45 days.
Within 45 days.
You see that too?
I am putting it in now.
I second that motion.
And having the process going through with both of you, I'll put that now for a vote and roll the call as required. And I'll ask both of you to say yes, once I call your name. Sam Harold,
Yes.
Tony Fugate,
Yes.
and I, Vance Cavallo, as the chair of the commission, also vote yes to proceed as detailed in the motion. Thank you both again for the work today. And as I I'm not sure if there's anything next really, but as I wrap this topic up, and I think, this is what we're gonna have to do. Okay, just, and hopefully, we'll find, maybe we'll have some of these meetings in the office too. And we'll do less director's report, less, because we don't have to, I think my sense is that we have to have 4 meetings that are required, that are like public meetings. Obviously, the public can comment anytime we have a meeting because it's a public meeting. But we also don't have to go through the motions of everything, right? We can jump right into, into the crux of why we're here and start debating the issues, voting. And then
This was a great meeting.
right. We need more of these, right? We need, because there's a lot of work to be done in many spaces. And this is just 2.
Yeah.
Just know that this is just 2 that's pressing that things I bring, but there's so many others that come up on a day-to-day basis that we need to be fleshing out and sort of go to bat for OPAT and seeing what happens, right? And then we're doing the work. So again, any final thoughts in this process and what's next? Happy to hear. But otherwise, I think the next part of the agenda is we did the voting. Yes, voting happened. Many voting happened. Other businesses, if anything that might have come in your way that perhaps I didn't address or wasn't in the agenda. This is a good opportunity to bring up too.
I'll just say that, we met as the subcommittee for the rules met yesterday. It was a really great meeting. There's a lot of discussion. We're really excited about moving forward.
Okay.
It was good. We're doing some good work.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's to kind of provide a little more context on that, is again, I mentioned, and that's also in the annual report. We did create the subcommittee of the CRB, which is a policy dedicated subcommittee. At this point, made of 3 individuals, including the chair, to just kind of look at some other spaces, right? That perhaps is non-regulations focused, that we can kind of, I think even something came out around grants, all these different things.
Yes,
Of that we need to sort of be, more, a lot of current events, right?
yes,
But that we can be, we can nudge the commission to recommend policy changes, rule changes, in the spirit, again, of making sure that accountability and transparency stay relevant, and stay at the forefront of the work of DP. Anything else? Thank you for allowing that. So I think having said that, public comments. Again, if folks, folks can comment in person, folks can certainly go on our website and make comments. They can send us email at OPAT, at OPAT. Right. let me find it. Thank you. OPAT@boston.gov. OPAT@boston.gov. Thank you, Cheyenne. OPAT@boston.gov. And there's also OPAT boards at boston.gov too, that you can send comments to. You can certainly email any of us as well, or come down to our office. And now we'll pause, see if there's any comments. If not, we'll what was I guess? Yeah, I mean, I thought we'd take the whole, I'm glad that the discussion was great. I didn't think we honestly had any much time left for anything, but I also, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, and I'm certainly I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit tired as well, so I'm happy to give us 45, particularly.
Are there any questions?
Is there any questions or comments? Okay, all right, okay, off the record is great too, yeah, off the record is great too. So we'll, so I've been,
For a motion to adjourn then?
yes, motion to adjourn.
So move.
I second that motion.
All right, so on that note, the meeting is adjourned. Again, thank you for all your work, thank you for the staff and team again for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
all.
This is what,
This is awesome.
we gotta do more.
Like that.
I think it really